I'd made any popular tunes.
You hadn't made any popular songs, but you had been working in an...
In the swirling shadows of a Los Angeles night, the life of a music legend was stopped by one bullet. The soulful voice behind timeless classics like "A Change Is Gonna Come" and "You Send Me" was silenced forever and reached his fatal end. But as the screaming headlines trumpeted that it was a senseless murder, a darker truth lurked behind the scenes. One so devastating that it would render the minds of fans wondering what happened to Sam Cooke on that fateful night. Join us as we delve into all you need to know about Sam's death and the secret that followed him to the grave. The genesis of an icon. It might be right to say, no one can ever again create an instrument as good as Sam Cooke's voice. A phenomenal combination of range, clarity, and passion. His rich and powerful tenor range was clear, and he could deliver emotions as sharply and precisely as a map. If he sang about love, pain, or the struggle for unity for Black people, his voice allowed everyone to be understood and recognized. In short, Cooke's amazing vocal range enabled him to handle difficult vocal lines easily. However, as they say, all good things must end. Tragically for Sam Cooke, that end came long before intended. A tragic accident ended his life, and everything about him was put to an early halt. The music world again had been given a great blow as it lost its bright star. However, before that fateful night, Sam Cooke's life was beautiful. He was born Samuel Cooke in 1931 in Clarksdale, Mississippi. It was later on in 1957 that he added an E to his name. For as long as Sam could remember, he lived in a family that loved music. He was born the fifth of 8 children to Reverend Charles Cooke, a Baptist minister, and Annie Mae Carroll. So you can imagine what family functions turned out to be like. His brother, for example, L.C., followed the path of the successful singer of the doo-wop band Johnny Keys and the Magnificent. Now for Sam, he was born Baptist, and the church played an important role in his life and music. He sang in the church choir and could get in touch with all those deep and husky tones that would set his style later. I bet you didn't know this, but things changed a lot for Sam Cooke when his family relocated to Chicago. This was a fresh start for the Cookes, and if music was at the heart of the family, say around 15%, it rose to 100% when they moved. The rest of Sam's formative years were in Chicago. He attended Doolittle Elementary and then transferred to Wendell Phillips Academy High School. Do you want to know who else attended that same high school? The famous Nat King Cole. Have you ever thought about that? Subsequently, Sam started singing in a group called the Singing Children when he was 6 years old. Talk about getting a head start. At the height of his teens, Sam became the lead singer of another gospel group, the Highway QCs. He was only 14 years old when he signed up with them, and it was already obvious that this boy would be a star. During this time, he made the acquaintance of another singer from the neighborhood, Lou Rawls, who was singing with a rival gospel choir. There you have it. At that tender age, Sam Cooke was already blowing up and dominating the music scene, and by 1950, he became a member of the famous gospel group, the Soul Stirrers, after he replaced R.H. Harris. Jesus Gave Me Water was the first record of Cooke's production, which was recorded the same year he joined the group. Sam then continued to put down some more great gospel songs with the Soul Stirrers, such as Peace in the Valley, How Far Am I From Canaan, and One More River, which was impressive because while many people just sang, Sam happened to write some of these songs himself. In short, his contribution to gospel music was monumental. They even reached a different level with fans. For example, for every concert they attended, Sam had a way of drawing the younger generation closer, especially the women, as they screamed and swarmed closer just to get a glimpse of him. Sam Cooke was a machine for putting out record after record of hits. In total, between 1957 and 1964, he had recorded a pyramid of 30 U.S. top 40 hits, not to mention the 3 more songs released after his demise. Even today, some of Cooke's songs are timeless. You definitely cannot forget some of his great hits like You Send Me, A Change Is Gonna Come, Cupid, Chain Gang, Wonderful World, Another Saturday Night, and Twistin' the Night Away. These songs are still heard on the radio, performed by other singers and sung by fans worldwide. But what made Sam even more remarkable and special was that he wasn't just a great singer and musician, but also a great songwriter and businessman. He was one of the first African-American performers and composers to manage his finances and the business part of his career. He found his record and built his own production company. This was very risky, given that most artists still had their fates determined by their producers or record companies. And if that were not enough, Cooke was also a supporter of civil rights. He was engaged in his music and called for proper compensation and equal rights for Black people and other minorities. Sam Cooke produced several major hits before hitting the crossroads between gospel and pop soul music. His first pop soul record as a singer and songwriter, Lovable, was released in 1956 using the pseudonym Dale Cook. Yes, you heard right. He tried successfully to give out a different persona, and what's more, he thought that by assuming a pseudonym, he would not lose his gospel following. The reason is that back then, there were many controversies surrounding gospel vocalists singing secular music. But come on, truth be told, no one could mistake Sam Cooke's voice for that of anyone else because it was so distinct, and in the end, everyone recognized that it was him singing. Subsequently, the head of Specialty Records, Art Roop, permitted Sam Cooke to get back to recording secular music under his real name. Yet, Roop had some pretty strong ideas about what kind of music Sam Cooke should produce. He wanted him to perform, sing, and dress like Little Richard, another artist on the label. But Sam and his producer Bumps Blackwell had other ideas. They were trying out for a different sound, incorporating features of modern jazz and orchestral music. Rupe was not happy about it, especially when he walked into the studio one late night mid-recording session and heard Sam singing Gershwin. This led to a fight between the two, and in the end, Sam left the label. While this action was taken out of anger, it was the best thing that could ever happen to Sam Cooke, because now he could sing the songs he wanted to. The first single he released after leaving was Lovable, which partially made the charts. During that time, gospel music was very popular, but Cooke learned that the gospel market was confined mainly to the blacks living in rural areas with low purchasing power. He aimed at a much higher goal and yearned to produce music belonging to the pop genre. Interestingly, Cooke got the encouragement he needed from an unlikely source, his pastor father. Cooke listened when his father said to him one day, "It's not what you sing that's important, but that God gave you a voice and musical talent. The true use of his gift is to share it and make people happy." And that was when Cooke made the big decision to move to the pop genre and change his name to Sam Cooke. At this time, Sam was in a relationship with his first real girlfriend, Barbara Campbell, a junior high school classmate while growing up, and she was certainly the girl he loved the most. However, Barbara knew that with Sam being on the rise of his career in gospel and pop music, he would often be out of town. It was hard to accept, but she knew so many women would do anything to be in the presence of their favorite singer, the great Sam Cooke. After all, he was one of the top young black male singers of his time, alongside Jesse Belvin and Lloyd Price. And not only that, he was seen as the most good-looking black man of his generation. However, as you know, with great fame comes great temptation. Sam was admired and adored by women, and who knows, these relationships may have allegedly contributed to his demise. Are we ever going to know the true story of Sam Cooke's final moments and whether his affairs are responsible for his later demise? Stay glued to this story until the very end to find out. Sam's relationships. In 1952, things were about to get a whole lot messy for young Sam Cooke. At the time, his girlfriend Barbara Campbell had just learned she was pregnant with their daughter Linda. However, Sam had also been involved with other women, and it appears he impregnated not only one but 3 other women at different times. The young lady Maxine Somerville from Cleveland had come to visit Sam in Chicago. She had only known Sam when his father worked in a church in Cleveland sometime and had fallen for the young singer. Maxine then delivered Sam a second daughter, Denise. Next was Evelyn Jackson, a Chicago-based woman whose relationship with Sam was intimately limited to a couple of escapades. She also later gave birth to a daughter, Paula. Although Sam's relationships with these ladies were a fling, the effects were in for the long run. However, Evelyn was not the last of the women Sam had an affair with. He impregnated a young woman named Connie Bowling when he was in Philadelphia, who gave birth to Sam's only surviving son, Keith. After the success of You Send Me, the next thing Sam knew was that he was entering the big leagues. At that time, Evelyn and Connie decided it was finally time to get child support from him. Among all the women in Sam Cooke's life, Barbara Campbell was the only woman who still harbored the light of a flicker of having a relationship with him, even though Sam cheated on her many times and even had children with other women. On the other hand, Paula's mother, Evelyn Jackson, and Keith's mother, Connie Bowling, went on to live their lives. Both women remarried, meaning they kept their children away from him most of the time. However, Barbara used to ensure that Sam got access to see their daughter Linda, even if she was involved in other relationships. Sam's parents were also not left behind in raising their grandchildren. Furthermore, Sharon Cooke, born to Sam and Verna Nelson in 1957, said Sam's parents visited his children and provided them with some of Sam's money. Anytime he was in the area doing his performances, Sam also ensured he paid them visits. However, Barbara may have expected a lot from Sam and got disappointed. Sam had met an attractive lady, Dolores Mohawk, from Fresno, California, with the assistance of his friend Lloyd Price. At first glance, you would have thought she was a model. And guess what? Lloyd Price and Dolores were in a relationship. However, Sam was immediately hooked, and after 2 weeks, he wed her. It was a romance that nobody saw coming. Dolores also had a young son, Joey, with whom Sam was more than happy to instantly assume the role of a father. He liked children a lot, and this was like an opportunity to make his heart throb. Lloyd Price would surely chuckle about this and think it rather funny, but he was not pleased when it happened. Who would be? Your friend marries your girlfriend after only 2 weeks. In interviews, Lloyd Price mentioned that he hoped his girlfriend would see Sam perform on stage, so he gave Sam her number, and they said the rest is history. But then, Sam's marriage to Dolores Mohawk was short and did not last forever. The marriage between Sam and his wife, Dolores Mohawk, at the time was not at its best at all for a good reason. Dolores was working 2 or 3 jobs because, as you know, gospel music was not big business at the time. Sam, on his own, was always touring with the Soul Stirrers, and when the King of Rock and Soul decided to embrace pop music fully, he was based mostly in Los Angeles. Finally, their marriage dissolved in 1958 when they decided to part ways. Unfortunately, Dolores lost her life a year later in a car accident in Fresno, California. And even though they had divorced, Sam still valued Dolores and showed up by contributing to her burial expenses. Subsequently, Sam Cooke married his second wife, Barbara Campbell, after his divorce in Chicago. It was also a family event, as Sam's father, Reverend Charles Cooke Sr., performed the ceremony. Sam and Barbara had a beautiful life together, and they were blessed with 3 children, Linda, Tracy, and Vincent. But their joy was cut short as a year later, their young son Vincent died in the family swimming pool in 1963. It was a big blow for the family, one they would bear for the rest of their lives. But that's not where all the tragic incidents end. This particular event is the kind you would never even wish for your enemy. Sam Cooke and his buddies Cliff, Lou, and Eddie had a delay that wasn't entirely due to stress, but because there was too much fun to be leaving on time. When they eventually set off in the car, their trip got cut short in the worst manner. They found that the road between St. Louis and Memphis was a 2-lane road, and traffic was rather heavy. Eddie, who decided to compensate for the lost time, sped off. It was around 8 p.m. when he reached a big hill, only to run into a huge cottonseed truck that had pulled over for a soybean truck. There was hardly any space to turn around or employ any trick. The car skidded in front of the truck, and Eddie crashed underneath it. The impact was sickening, with Sam dozing off in the front passenger seat and sustaining some minor injuries. However, the event that followed the accident was quite chaotic. The 4 men, Sam, Cliff, Lou, and Eddie, were all taken to the nearest colored hospital, Crittenden Memorial in West Memphis. Unfortunately, what had happened was beyond even the doctor's capabilities, and Eddie died shortly upon arrival. Lou was equally in a similar condition and was moved to Kennedy Veterans Hospital in Memphis, where he lay unconscious. Over time, the collision on that fateful night was just the first step towards an unthinkable and purposeless disaster. This event caused a tragedy that would make everyone in the music world shed tears and remain silent. The once dubbed King of Soul was about to experience something so drastic. However, what made this event even more terrible was the information that he carried along with him. What terrible secret did Sam Cooke die with? Let's find out. The tragic end of a soulful voice. December 11, 1964 became one of the most tragic days in history. It was the day Sam Cooke's promising life was senselessly taken from him. The police had got 2 phone calls that evening, the firing of weapons and then a kidnapping, both from the Hacienda Motel in South Central Los Angeles. However, when the officers got there, they were greeted with the deceased body of Sam Cooke. Investigations kicked off almost immediately, and it was found that Sam Cooke had suffered a penetrative bullet injury in the chest, which pierced his heart. The motel's manager, Bertha Franklin, said she shot Cooke in an act of self-defense, a statement that his friends dismissed because nobody could ever believe somebody with a sweet nature like Sam Cooke could pose a threat to anyone. But then, Evelyn Carr, the motel owner, gave a different version altogether. She claimed she was on the phone with Bertha Franklin during the event and heard it all: Cooke's intrusion, the struggle, and the firing. Carr decided to call the police. Unfortunately, they came too late. Sam Cooke was no more. When the news of Cooke's demise was out, it sent shock across the music world. How could this have happened to a man who had inspired joy in thousands of his fans back home? You could draw a picture of the events that led to Sam Cooke's demise from the police's report. The report indicated that Cooke had registered in the hotel with a woman, Elisa Boyer, in the evening. However, things took a downward spiral when Cooke started knocking aggressively on Bertha Franklin's office, demanding to know where the girl was. According to Franklin, Cooke only wore one shoe and a sports jacket when he broke into Franklin's office, dragged her hands, and asked about Elisa Boyer, but Franklin's testimony did not stop there. She said she fought with Sam Cooke to the extent that they both started rolling on the floor. That was when she took the opportunity to escape and ran back to get a gun. At some point, the tables turned, and Franklin claimed she fired in defense to save her life as she was in danger. Sam was hit once in the abdomen, and in confusion he said, "Lady, you hit me." However, Franklin claimed that Sam was still able to move after being shot, and he allegedly threatened to attack Franklin again, which led her to hit a broomstick on his head. Cooke then fell to the floor and later died of his injuries. The event led to a coroner's inquest to establish the cause of Sam's demise. But as the investigation proceeded, more questions emerged. While Bertha Franklin was holding the terrible spectacle on the witness stand, was her story complete, or were there other aspects that were less obvious? Elisa's account of the tragic event was quite different. She said she had been with Sam Cooke, and they had been dancing together earlier that evening at a local nightclub. But the story quickly turned sour when Cooke was said to have gotten drunk and declined to take Boyer home as she insisted. Instead, he took her to the Hacienda Motel, a black-owned enterprise located in the south-central part of Los Angeles. Boyer noted that Sam Cooke appeared to be well acquainted with the layout of the motel, as if he had been there before. In her testimony to the jury, she mentioned that Cooke physically held her down on the bed, removed her clothes except for her underwear, and proceeded to molest her. At that point, Boyer stated that she believed Cooke was planning to maltreat her, and to escape, she told Sam she needed to use the restroom. However, it was tightly closed when she attempted to run out the window. At that point, the only option for Boyer was to get back to the room, only to be attacked by Cooke again. Soon enough, she saw her opportunity when Cooke went to urinate. Immediately, she sprang naked from the bed, picked her clothes, and in that same haste, took most of Cooke's dressing with her. As soon as she made her way out of the room, her desperate search for help began. She ran to the office, knocked on the manager's door, and pleaded to be locked inside. However, she said the manager took so long before responding that she felt Sam Cooke would soon be behind her. Finally, with nowhere else to go, Boyer hurried out of the motel before the manager could open the door. Not one to give up so easily, Boyer quickly wore her clothing, hid Cooke's clothing to delay him if he started looking for her, and went to the nearest telephone booth. From there, she proceeded to call the police and tell them the story of how she had just escaped. Boyer's testimony of that horrific night is the only known testimony. However, eyewitnesses mentioned that Boyer appeared to be having a great time earlier at Marconi's restaurant before she alleged that Sam assaulted her. Nonetheless, some insist that just because a woman appears to have fun during dinner doesn't mean she is in for anything other than dinner. Subsequently, when they probed further into the matter, more information came to light. The restaurant employees and Sam Cooke's friends reported that he had a large amount of cash later that evening while at Marconi's. However, when police searched Elisa Boyer's purse, they found only a $20 bill. And when the police searched Cooke's Ferrari, they found a money clip containing $108 and a few coins near the ashtray. This must have been the conviction they needed because they finally went with Bertha Franklin's version of the event, supported by Evelyn Carr's testimony. Boyer and Franklin too underwent a polygraph test, and the results asserted that it was an act of self-defense. With this evidence, the jury found out that the shooting was a justifiable homicide and officially put a seal on Cooke's case. Yet, it did little to dispel the rumors surrounding the mysterious demise of Sam Cooke. There may have been a lot of talk, but people never believed the official report on Sam Cooke's terrible demise. Yes, Elisa Boyer, Bertha Franklin, and Evelyn had corresponding testimonies, but people close to the artist were barely convinced because they felt there was a lot more to the story than they had heard. The boxer, Muhammad Ali, a good friend of Cooke, was quite open about his uncertainty. He said, if Cooke had been Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, or Ricky Nelson, the FBI would have been investigating. Muhammad Ali wasn't the only one who had opinions about this event. Singer Etta James also thought long and hard about what went down. She got to see Cooke's body before his burial, and what she saw was quite gruesome. In Etta's words, after the fight, Cooke's head was almost torn from his shoulders. Both his hands and fingers were smashed, and his nose was disfigured. And if you thought long and hard about his appearance before he was laid 6 feet into the ground, you might realize something was off. While some theories hold a lot of truth about Sam Cooke's strange demise, some have even placed the blame on his manager, Alan Klein, who owned Tracy Limited and had every right to all the recordings that Cooke produced. Of course, you could think of this as a mere conspiracy theory, because no proof has been provided to back this idea up. Nevertheless, many fans came out to mourn and honor him in the only way they could. They just wanted to be as close to him as possible for the last time. However, some failed to achieve their goal because the coffin was covered with glass. But then, the scene soon became chaotic. A Chicago defender went further to point out that a blind woman was easy prey in the stampede and had to be rescued by the workers from the funeral home. The first funeral service, according to tradition, was conducted on the 18th of December 1964 in Chicago at A.R. Leak Funeral Home. The numbers that turned up were surprising, as 200,000 fans waited to look at Cooke's body. After the first funeral service was held in Chicago, the body was flown back to Los Angeles, where the second funeral service took place at the Mount Sinai Baptist Church. It occurred on the 19th of December, and the guest performer was Ray Charles, who replaced Bessie Griffin, who originally was meant to perform a number but couldn't go through it because of grief. Cooke was buried at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park Cemetery in Glendale, California. Although the music industry had not yet recovered from Sam Cooke's death, his music went on, touching and inspiring anybody it came in contact with. In the month of his demise, 2 tracks and an album were released, which allowed his fans to enjoy his creations. One of those singles, Shake, became a popular song around that time and ranked top 10 on the pop and R&B charts. Another song that became popular during that period was A Change Is Gonna Come, as it became the anthem for the civil rights movement. For African American singers, A Change Is Gonna Come was so unprecedented that it wasn't just any other song. It also sent a message about the struggles of African American communities. It reached the top 40 on the pop chart and the chart for R&B success, reaching the top 10, and its impact continued to be felt for generations. While Cooke's music was busy uniting people, conflicts began to arise from his death. The woman who fired bullets at Cooke, Bertha Franklin, reported that she was threatened with death almost every day. She resigned from her employment with the Hacienda Motel and fled the state for her dear life. Franklin also sued Cooke's estate for compensatory damages with $2 million. She then claimed that she was barely getting by physically and mentally due to the attack from Cooke. However, in 2002, Barbara Womack, acting lawyer for Cooke's estate, filed another lawsuit against Franklin for $7,000 to offset Sam Cooke's burial cost. At the end of everything, the courts gave Franklin $30,000, a quarter of what she wanted. The bitter truth is that Sam never got to witness the full-bodied civil rights movement to which he had contributed. The end of racial segregation, the signing of the Voting Rights Act, and the iconic historic march from Selma to Montgomery. It's been decades since the world lost its music icon, and the question that begs to be asked is this: what happened on that fateful night? Now you've had a glimpse into the tragic story of Sam Cooke. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your views in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Before you go, explore the other videos displayed on your screen.